My name is Obehi Ewanfo. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I am from the south of Nigeria, from Uromi to be precisely, which is in Edo State. But I've been in Italy since 2004. I am in a part of Italy that is known as Verona. If you have read the book Romeo and Juliet, that is where the setting actually takes place. Okay, talking about storytelling again, the city of Verona is making a lot of money from that story thanks to Shakespeare, which is to say now that storytelling is not something that we just need to shift to one angle. It's actually a fundamental aspect of how we function as a society, how we function as a people, and even the world that is going to come is going to be built on our story, because without our story, nothing exists. And everything exists if we can believe it. With me, we are creating the reality that we are seeing in front of us. Of course, I say that also at a very simple level, but that can also be a subliminal message. That can also be a very deep message that we can explore. And I think that is also what we are talking about today, which is a neurological part of our understanding in terms of story, because it's not something that we just throw out there. It is important that people that are listening to us understand the importance of storytelling, because it is fundamentally powerful. It is why when you enter into field like psychology, you see that storytelling is actually where we start and where we end. And if you go to medicine, maybe for example, you are having a certain ailment, you don't go to the hospital and the doctor just start prescribing medicine for you or telling you what to do. You first of all engage in story, like, oh, but what did you eat yesterday? But where are you feeling this pain? How much are you feeling in it? Describe me the pain. That is story, because you are talking about something that is happening to you. And when you go into business, maybe, for example, you want to engage with a customer, you don't just go there and say, hey, buy from me. You sort of need to also engage with the person so that you understand what this individual wants, what are your necessities, what are your needs, so that, because it's not for granted that everything that you are doing is going to be good for the person that is in front of you. It might not be the right product. So that is what I think people often say, let's see if we are in good fit, if we are a good fit for each other. We do the discovery call, because I ask you a few questions, then I understand you. At the end of the day, we decide whether what I have can actually serve you. Are you an entrepreneur struggling to stand out in a crowded market? Your secret weapon is your story. Discover how to make your competition irrelevant by owning your story. Want to learn more? Check out our signature program, Own Your Story, a 5-week training to reshape your narrative. The link is what you see on your screen, academy.aclasses.org/story. Now back to the conversation. So I think this is fundamentally important. Of course, even when we take it to politics again, story, a leader who is able to involve in storytelling is able to galvanize the people and take them in the direction that maybe that particular leader wants, or maybe the system wants. If you're not able to tell story and you stand on the podium to talk to people, you are going to bore them quite easily, because people are not reasoning in statistics. They are reasoning in story. But that means they are reasoning in emotion. You're going to stir them up. Let them know why they should believe in what you're saying. Imagine, for example, when the President J.F. Kennedy stand and he wanted to set the idea of the moon mission to the American people in the system, he needed to add story to that. He needed to stir up the emotion of the people so that they can believe in him. And of course, because they believe in him and the country invested money in it, it took, within the period that he said, which is the goal, it became a reality, because the people bought into the story. And if we buy into the story that we are telling, and if the people that we are telling the story to buy also into the story, then there is nothing, there is absolutely nothing that we cannot do. In fact, in our storytelling series, I often say that if we can, because believing that we can do what we say we can do is the hardest thing for us, not only the doing it. But if you go to countries like Switzerland, for example, you see that the terrain is very disturbing. How can you live in this country? But you see what they have done? They will boil a hole in the mountain if that is what they want. But if you need to be able to tell the people that the obstacle is not the problem. The problem is whether you believe that you can overcome it. If you believe that you can overcome it, then we can destroy that mountain. We can literally shift a mountain and move it to another area and sit there. If there is a hole on the road that is obstructing us, for us, the problem is not the hole. The problem is whether we believe it. If we believe that we can do it, we can do it. So that is why we fundamentally believe that storytelling is the most, not one of the most, is the most powerful instrument that is known to man. So I thank all of you that, of course, believe in this, because if you don't believe it, you will not be here, because I'm not paying you to be here. I just propose to you, can you please speak to us, educate us about how we should be able to understand storytelling from the point of view of neuroscience. You accept to be here because you believe it. So I want to thank you so much for this time. Now, how we going to engage in this conversation today is that each person is going to have about 30 minutes to talk. After this 30 minutes conversation, we're going to have a Q&A session where I'm going to ask you a few questions so that there are some points that might need maybe further clarification. You will help us to do that. Of course, if this were an Obehi podcast, what we do there is that we spend a lot of time digging deeper into the conversation. But of course, here, we don't have that kind of time. We have 4 people that are going to be speaking. So you just deliver your statement in 30 minutes. After that, we move to the Q&A section where I will ask you maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then we go to the conclusion. That is how we go here today. The first speaker, that is, I think that is Gunnar. The time is yours, brother. Please go ahead and educate us.
My name is Gunnar Newquist, and I'm going to talk about a word that many of you may have not heard before, and that is the word ethology. And I'll tell you in a minute what that means, but I'm coming from the angle of behavior and how storytelling fits into our natural, I guess, expression of humanity here. And I'll kind of go through this, how this relates to maybe a marketing side of your business. So anyway, who am I? I am a skier turned neuroscientist that used my neuroscience research to start a company developing artificial intelligence. So my goal for the artificial intelligence was to make it more lifelike and to use principles of human and animal behavior and also animal structure of their brains to be able to make robots and digital characters into not just, these things that we use, but having them turn into a being, a companion, hopefully even. So what I do is I both consult for technology companies along the lines of product development, business development, and intellectual property. And I also develop, like I said, these strategies to make artificial intelligence more lifelike. So if you are looking for any kind of artificial being in any of your applications, that's one of the things that I love to do. So now the main thing, what is this ethology word? So ethology is what is natural behavior. Some people used to refer to this as instincts. And most of the time, ethology is talked about in the context of animals. And so there was this man by the name of Konrad Lorenz who did a famous study about geese where he showed that the first thing that moved that geese saw when they hatched, they would imprint on that and think that that was their mother, and they would follow whoever or whatever that moving thing was around the rest of their adolescent lives. And it was a really cute study. And so he kind of brought to this idea that there's things that we're kind of born with that a species just does. And basically every member of that species has this whatever capability, behavioral capability. And so he went on to found this ethology as the study of this natural behavior. So what about humans? Well, one of our main natural behaviors is that really defines us is that we are storytellers, as OB said. So this is why storytelling is so powerful, is because it's embedded into our natural behavior. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how that works. So the basis of this storytelling is obviously language. And every human in the world that's got normal capabilities speaks a language. So that's the part that the fact that you have language is the human ethology. Which language you talk is what is learned through your environment, through your exposure to other people. And so ethology is not such exactly that it's instincts that we're talking about, but something that is a capability that every member of the species has, and learning can go on top of that, but the basis set of something like language is the part of the ethology. And there's even brain regions that are specifically involved in language production and language understanding. So production such as Broca's area, word recognition such as Wernicke's area. And these areas of our brain form the abilities for us to do this ethology. So another part of this ethology is not just storytelling, but story listening. And what's really interesting to me, I didn't realize this until somebody pointed it out, is that every group of humans in the world will sit around like we're doing today to listen to some speaker tell a story. And whether you're in an educational setting like a classroom on the side here, whether you are a child listening to an adult tell stories in a group, whether you are in a tribe in the old days where an elder is telling stories about their history, their past, their heritage, or even a political leader or a dictator talking in front of millions of people. Every group sits around and listens to stories. And what is the significance of that? The significance of that is that the stories that we all share together is actually what's defining who is in your tribe. And a very powerful example of that, it would be a religious group. And so every one of these different religious groups have something that's specific that they would say, we believe such and such. And those beliefs, those stories are what define that religion and that group of people that belongs to that religion. So now we have stories forming, a backbone of our ethology. Well, it goes deeper than that, actually. Stories are what form our reality. And what I think is really interesting is that I found this quote, and I think this kind of sums it up. We can no longer speak of reality without considering how the world is altered and created when it is put into words. The words form our reality. And I'll give you an example here of how that works. So the reality, part of the reality at least, that goes from these words is how humans organize their memories through these stories that are told. So the stories help put the context, the structure of what's being said into associations with other things that have been known previously, and also making emotional connections to those words and to those memories. So you can use that with brand and customer experience. You see on the left here, there's talks about feelings in each one of these. That's making the emotional connection between your brand and your customer. And something that's really important to point out in this age of artificial intelligence, people are really liking to connect our metaphors of how the brain works to computers. So you say, well, we have these memories and they work like a computer. Well, in reality, it's a little different from a computer. It's dynamic. It's more like the stories show you which direction the information should flow. So our memories are adaptable as we talk about them. As we talk through the stories, we can actually alter the previous memory that we had in more of a way like a river, like you get going down a certain direction through that memory, and then it branches and get into other memories from there. And these are modified throughout your life. And so think of these stories more like rivers that go in certain directions rather than accessing specific memory on a hard drive of a computer. So when you're thinking about this, think about what memories, what emotional connections is the story that you're telling with your brand evoking? Is it going down a positive direction or something else?
Thank you for watching. Are you enjoyed the video? Let us know in the comment section. My mission is to help professionals like you to own their story. What would that do for you, you might ask? Well, it helps you make your competition irrelevant. Want to learn more? Check out our signature program, Own Your Story, a 5-week training to reshape your narrative. The link is what you see on your screen, academy.aclasses.org/story. Now back to the conversation.
So, as I said before, the shared stories that we tell ourselves, that we tell as a group, define our social group. And so, with this is another thing that will come up later here. So, as I said, broadly, the shared stories could be something like a religion where there's a large group of people that are involved, or it can be something more concise and narrow. And these could involve members of many different tribes into a certain story. And I'll give you an example. Here on the right, my friend Rob Gaffney, who recently passed away, unfortunately, started this social cause about mountain culture. And what has been happening was that we had this large corporation that wanted to develop with luxury condos an entire valley. And the social cause that he rallied around was that we as mountain people are not, this is not who we are. We are not people who develop the mountains into something that's unrecognizable to us. And so he rallied around the social group of people living in the mountains. And that drew people of all religions and nationalities that happened to be in this area. And that was toward a very specific cause. So another thing that these shared stories do is not only define our social group, but how we view the world. Like, how do you view the world as a mountain person? These shared stories are developing things like biases of how we see the information that's presented. And I'm not putting this into like a positive or negative, it's just the fact that this happens. And so one of the interesting findings is that you can give people the exact same information, and if you're on opposite ends of the political spectrum, you can have opposite conclusions from that exact same information because of these biases that develop through the shared stories of these different social groups. Another thing that shared stories do is define our greater good. What is our mission in life? What do we believe is important to us? And something that Obi said is, you can do nearly anything if you believe that it's for the greater good, right? So there's this really famous study that was done that was supposed to be about obedience. And you may be familiar, this Milgram man put together a study where his actual test subject that he had was was put into this teacher position in the middle. And what this person was doing was teaching a learner that he couldn't see on the other side of the wall about something. And so when this learner got the information wrong, this teacher was supposed to deliver an electric shock to them. And the experimenter was coercing this person to do this. So what the study purported to show was that people will do things because a person of authority is telling them to do it. But there's actually a much more interesting finding that happened here, and that is that they would keep shocking the person for a while, but then if that experimenter said, "You need to shock this person because I said so," every single one of these people would stop doing it. They only kept escalating and kept shocking this person more and more if they were coerced in another way. And it's a little bit vague about why this happens, but it looks like it had something to do with them thinking that they're doing something for the greater good, like we're doing this for science, we just have to keep going, we have to understand how this works, things like that. So what this showed is that it's not that people will do things because you command them. They'll absolutely refuse if you just tell somebody to do something. But if they are within a social group and they are doing something that they believe is the greater good, and then you can push people farther and farther to do this, whatever it is, as long as they think, even if it seems like it's bad, as long as they think it's serving the greater good, they will do it. So with that kind of information, in a positive way, not in a negative way like that, how can we leverage our storytelling ethology, this natural behavior that we have to both listen to stories and tell stories? How can we use that to, make let's say a better marketing campaign? So I'm going to give you a couple examples of how some companies have done this, so that you can see how this works. So first, like I said, because stories organize information and emotions into memories, the first thing that you have to do is make sure that your story is organized into a way to form a memory that you want it to form. So the diamond company De Beers did something very creative here. They made their brand associated with marriage. So a diamond is forever. There's an implied association there, which is that, okay, marriage is supposed to last forever. And so also a diamond is forever. Oh, I need to be buying diamonds to show that this contract that we are entering into is forever. So the thing here is that the association is about something bigger, something that everybody else already knows about, and it's a very positive thing that people want to engage in. And it's not so much about the diamond itself. They could have inserted just about anything in there, I imagine. It's about the fact that whatever your brand is selling is embedded into this association with something more positive and very well known. And at the same time, this creates belonging through being associated with a shared story that everybody in their customer group is very known, or they know very well. So De Beers was able to embed themselves into this shared story of marriage. So they created an association and they embedded themselves into a shared story, so that every time that people think about marriage, now they think about a diamond is forever. I need to buy a diamond when I want to show my symbolism of marriage or something else that's very meaningful in life that's supposed to last a long time. And that was really their trick. So memory plus shared story. Association, I should say association plus embedded in a shared story. Let me give you another example This one comes from Apple. And Apple does this marketing of what Simon Sinek says is called the why, how, what marketing strategy. So why this is powerful is that you begin with the why of why you would get your attention towards Apple. And they begin with some kind of shared story. Next, they tell you the how of what they are doing. And so they organize the steps of what they do into relatable steps that you can understand easily and remember very easily. And then it's only at the last, they tell them the particular thing that they want them to buy. So here's the actual wording that they use. So the shared story, why? Notice they start with, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The shared story of we believe, right? Now the how. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our designs, our products, beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. And of course, these simple words are having you make associations with all these memories that you have about things that are beautifully designed that you like. Oh, Apple does that too? Simple to use. Of course I want simple to use. User-friendly. Oh, that means I can figure it out easily, right? So this is a very, using these simple words is organizing the memories very, very effectively for them. And then finally, oh, we just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? And so you've already set up the shared story, the memories, and now all you have to do is show them what you want to buy. The summary here is that because we are storytellers, what we would want to do as somebody selling something or having an offer, maybe it's not even selling, maybe it's offering a social cause. We want to use this ethology of storytelling so that we become the leader of this tribe that comes towards us to either listen to our social cause or buy something for us. So again, if we can use shared stories to maintain social cohesion, people will be invested in us. You always start with tell them the why first. We believe, this is our mission, words of that nature. Then you can write your brand into those shared stories. So make sure you're making associations with the things you want to make associations with. Make sure you're creating the emotional connection that you want to be emotionally connected to. So think about, like, how is your brand, your company working toward your customers' greater good? If you align well with that, people will come because they have invested themselves into your shared story and they have made the associations into your memories. So I leave you with, what story would you like to tell everybody? And I'd be happy to help some of you out with that story. And again, if you have any interest in neuroscience and as it's related to artificial intelligence, I have the book, Artificial General Intelligence, A Revolution Beyond Deep Learning and the Human Brain. So thank you very much, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you so much for that. That is really beautiful. That is really beautiful. There is a lot of nugget that must go home there. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Gunnar. That is a beautiful presentation. And I think we should be doing this all the time. There is a lot of value here. I really feel very happy about that. Of course, just hang on. We are coming to you later because we have a Q&A session where I put down some of the questions I tend to ask you for clarification. But of course, we are coming to that whenever that person has spoken.
Enormous.